It's the ultimate chicken or the egg question in the game of football. What do you do first? Build the team or get the quarterback? General managers have lost days, weeks, months of sleep before drafts trying to figure out, is this the right time to add the quarterback? Is the roster ready, or does that matter at all? Here on today's episode, we're going to take a deep dive into everything. We're going to talk about quarterbacks that would be worthy of taking a little bit ahead of the curve, and then what that curve is. Do you have to make sure that you build the offensive line, the run game, have wide receivers to throw to, a defense behind you, the timeline of the front office and the coaching staff, all of that to try to answer the age-old question: what is more important, getting the quarterback first or building the roster first? Welcome back to the Bluechip Committee. Welcome to episode 3 of the Bluechip Committee. Trevor, Sikkema, and Connor Rogers from the NFL Stock Exchange Show, and EJ Snyder and Brett Kollmann from Bootleg Football, once again here with you guys to form the Bluechip Committee. What we do here on the show, take a look at all of the philosophical, deep questions of how you build a team, how you draft, how you win a championship. Today is no different. I'll let these guys kind of dig into it a little bit more, but right off the top, just to let you know of what we're doing here on the show, the main topic is: what do you do first? Do you get the quarterback or do you build the team? Or really, is there a right or wrong way to do it? We're going to dig into all that stuff. The quality of the quarterback prospect, how you are building your team, what part of the winning window you're in, all of that great stuff, and so much more. Fellas, it's good to be back. How you feeling today?
It's great to be back. And I want to say thanks to everybody for the support for the first 2 episodes. Both of them are over definitely. 80K. People are finding the content. The comment section is chock full. Can't be happier with how you all are responding to this. So we're just going to keep rolling. We've got 2 more of these. This one, of course, is on the NFL SE channel. The last one will be on the Bootleg channel. Drops on the Friday right before the draft. So that'll be a lot of fun. But thank you all so much for tuning in and for just being hyped on the draft like we are.
Also, we will try to fit in an actual 2-round mock draft outside of Blue. Just, tradition is we always come on and we do a stock exchange mock. We didn't want to have that just be an episode of Blue Chip, so we're going to try to fit that in like draft week. No promises that it's going to be less than 3 hours long, because a 1-round mock draft for us was like 2 hours. But we will do our best to fit that one in. Other than the whole main topic of building the roster first versus drafting the quarterback first, we also have a few players we're going to talk about today. People were higher on the consensus, lower on the consensus, late round picks that we absolutely love. I had to wrestle EJ for one of them. And then we're also going to do a viewer question and set up the rest of the series. But I kind of want to tee up, for people waiting patiently, the main topic / theme of the day. I have done a lot of me as well as Nathan, who works with me on research, we have pulled a lot of data for every first-round quarterback that's been drafted since the 2015 class, which was the Winston Mariota class. So I will have a lot of monologuing to do here, but I want to set you guys up first to give your takes on this. Connor, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Because I think that I don't think there's, number one, a cut and dried way, because there's so many circumstances with team building that are out of your hands. Like, what did you inherit when you got the job? Did you have your picks? Did you have cap space? Did you need to wipe the slate clean? Did you have a coach? Are you hiring that coach with the idea of he's going to develop the quarterback? Are you hiring that coach where he's going to run more of the team, but he can hire the guy that is going to be stable to the quarterback? The fact is, now there are things where you can play to your strengths and weaknesses. Are you, pretty strong in the trade market that can kind of expedite the process? Or are you more of an old school, no, I'd rather draft a lot of my key pieces and extend internal players rather than needing to go out on the free agent market or the trade market? And most of the time guys are traded because, one, they want way too much money, or the fact they start to trend the wrong way in their career. So it's a fascinating exercise, because draft classes for quarterbacks as a whole there's so much variance in it that we're experiencing right now. This is the perfect draft class where you look at it and go, there's a guy and he's going number 1. And then after that, it's a lot of conversations. It wasn't that long ago that we had 6 quarterbacks that went in the top 12. And honestly, I felt like 4 or 5 of them definitely deserved to go in the top 12. It was that good of a class. So I love what I love about this exercise is the things that are out of your hands and how you kind of have to adjust to the climate depending on the situation you find yourself in.
I think that the phrase that has become more and more popular is that organizations fail quarterbacks more often than quarterbacks fail organizations, right? And I think that that's why this conversation is such a great one to have, because you can recognize that as being true, but let's face it, these are multi-billion-dollar organizations. It's not like they don't want to do the best job possible. So why is it so often that these organizations fail these quarterbacks? And I think another sort of talking point that I want to have with you guys is, I'm sure y'all get this question a lot. Connor and I get it a lot on NFL Stock Exchange. Like, when do you start a rookie quarterback, right? I think that that's like sort of an adjacent question to kind of like what we're talking about here, because if you start these guys too early, and we do live very much in, it feels like this sort of microwaved society where it's like, man, if this guy's a first round quarterback at all, you got to start him right away. Got to start him right away. And it's like, man, I don't think I subscribe to that absolute the way that people are talking about it. And the conclusion that I've come to with quarterbacks, and I'd love to hear you guys' opinion on this, is the right time to start a young and even rookie quarterback is when you know that they will be able to fail, because they inevitably will, and they won't lose their confidence. Like when you can throw them out there and they have the mental fortitude and the confidence and the supporting cast around them, whether that's their coaching staff, whether that's their like literally the players who are out on the field there with them, their supporting cast, whether it's their friends and family behind the scenes, which we know goes into this because we often forget these are human beings who are becoming football players, and we sort of forget that part. Sometimes you just think these guys are robots. But my answer is always, when this player can fail, go through their lumps and their struggles while being able to go, okay, that's an area where I can get better. That's something that I did wrong and I'm not going to do again. And not, man, I suck. Like, I'm not good at this. And I think like that to me is the answer to that question. Does that give you an exact timeline? No, but I think it does help you, understand the personal level of it, of sort of when you start these guys, which I think I'd love to hear y'all's opinions on that, because I think that'll usher into, okay, well, how does that go into the overall team building part of the question we're asking today?
Well, look at Bryce, right? Like Bryce had to be benched and kind of resettle. And Bryce has, gone on the record talking about this, where like when he got benched for Andy, and Andy's like the perfect veteran backup to have in the room for a young quarterback, he just started driving to Atlanta. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't have a destination. Like he had never failed before like that. Mm-hmm. Again, this was a kid who was really successful in high school, transferred to Mater Dei, literally the best high school football program in the nation. I'm not even just saying that as an alum. Like, that is just an objective fact. Mater Dei is like the Bama of high school. And the only program that comes close to them is Bosco, who happens to be their arch rival in the same division, in the same league. And so he was the guy in high school, shattered every single California record, went to Bama, won a Heisman, was an incredible college player, drafted number one. Like, he had never failed before. Mm-hmm. He had never failed before. And so that was the first time he had to deal with that. And I think it really helped that he had a coach like Dave Canales there who could lift him up and build him up, that he had a presence like Andy Dalton there who could lift him up and build him up, because Andy knows what his role is and he's just a genuinely good guy. So when Andy got in that car accident, just like a random freak accident, right? And then Bryce got thrown back in, he was mentally prepared to fail again. And so when he had those difficulties, it didn't rattle him so much. So when he, being in a very undergunned roster, taking on the eventual Super Bowl champion Eagles, he went toe to toe with them. And he took a lot of hits in that game, and it didn't rattle him like it did before. And so to your point, Trev, they're ready when they're ready. And oftentimes it's not a physical thing, it's a mental thing, which is an entirely different conversation.
And then, you kind of have an interesting dilemma too when you go back to Anthony Richardson, right? Where you look at it and you go, okay, he hasn't played a lot of football and he's really, really raw and he's a developmental prospect with high-end tools. And you feel like, well, he's so far away from being ready to play, but he hasn't been playing football. So how is he going to get better? And that's the conundrum that I think teams run into with prospects that haven't played a lot of football, that are raw in certain areas of their game, because this is where, to me, you have to go back to the root. Like, guys need to go to, like, upper echelon guys we're talking about here, obviously, right? They need to go to high school where they're going to get to play. And then they need to go to college where they're going to get to play. And I'm not saying you need to be a freshman and handpick your situation where you're going to start, but you should have a pathway by your sophomore year. If you're an upper echelon, like high-end kind of guy, where I'm going to get to play multiple years of college football and develop in a system with a little bit of consistency as a coach, that's become so important. And I think it unfortunately took the scouting community to kind of see that play out the wrong way a couple of times, to have their eyes truly open to that at every level of football.
So much of this conversation about, do you get the quarterback first or do you build the team first, is about the quarterback. And you said it, Connor, when you were talking about your opening in terms of what situation do you come into? Do you have a quarterback, right? We look at, Jacksonville, right? Liam going into Jacksonville. He thought he could work with Trevor. He thought Trevor was a workable option. And a lot of times we see coaches come in and they have a quarterback, but it might not be a workable option, might not be the option they want to work with, right? And then it's okay. It's the central question in the NFL. Do you have a quarterback? And if you don't, you need to do everything you can until you do. There is no stopping. There is no,
that's right,
hey, I'll just build a team and throw a guy in there and win. If you look at the final 8 every year in the NFL, they all have quarterbacks, and they have for years. The whole, hey, I'll get a mid starter out of the free agency pile and just have a team that's so good, so killer that they'll win everything is outdated under the modern rule set and everything else. So it's about the quarterback situation. Did you inherit one? Do you want one? If not, where are you going to get one? Is it going to be free agency? Is the draft good? Do you think you can develop them? Will you have stability? It's the pin in the board here is quarterback. And if you have one, great. See if you can run that string and then build around them. Neat. That's an accelerator. We can talk about that acceleration because windows are so short now. There's no more 5-year windows. You've got a 3-year window if you're lucky. So how do you push the gas? When do you push the gas? Same thing that you said, Trevor, with a young starter, we got to get you in there. And I think that sort of support ecosystem around them is so important. Not only the coaches, but we all know you can't lose the locker room, man.
Right.
If your quarterback's out there and he is not giving all the rest of these professionals a chance to win, it is the NFL not for long league. They're not going to put up with that for multiple games. They have to be bought in. They have to see it in practice. They have to believe that he can get there, and then they can be part of that support system. Otherwise, they're pulling the other direction. They're like, hey, we got this veteran here that's going to give us a better chance. I don't really care about your rookie agenda. So trying to balance all of these things, but again, around the central point of the quarterback is really the challenge for NFL teams. And unless you have one, the reality is you're sunk. We can talk about all these other things and all these other strategies, but unless you have that position lined up and they are going to perform, you're not going to win anything in the NFL.
Well, there's a real NFL business aspect to this too. If you don't have, marketing teams and the business side of NFL organizations need to sell a plan or hope. And I feel like we now live in the era where 90% of that plan or hope resolves around the quarterback.
Oh, totally.
Easily.
Who is the guy on the billboard of the stadium? I was about to say who's the guy on tickets, but tickets are all on the phone now. That's dating myself. I miss the day when you'd actually get printed out tickets and go to the game. But the point still stands that
old head ass.
Yeah, man, what an unk.
I think there is a business opportunity, by the way, for graphic designers to do make
tickets?
their own.
Yeah. People miss it.
I agree.
What's unk cooking? But I mean, real talk though, it's tough, man. You can only do the bridge thing for so long. And now we live in a world, it's funny with us four sitting here because we're such a part of it. We're grateful for it. But I cover the Jets locally, right? I would say a lot of the talk right now is about this draft, but a lot of the talk around the Jets locally is already on the 2027 draft. Genuinely. You have not just draft people like us that are so deep in the weeds on this. You have mainstream local radio shows that are already discussing waiting till the 2027 draft. That is more than a year away. Yeah. But it's a real talking point in terms of how you sell hope as an organization.
So I was going to bring that part up where we, and when I say we, I don't necessarily mean the four of us, although the four of us are part of the content and media machine. But that, I think, has more of a sway in what happens in all of this than what a lot of people either want to admit or want to talk about. EJ, you just talked about this a few minutes ago where you were saying like, hey, you know, the locker room or the owners or maybe even the fans could be clamoring for a certain move. But if the coaches are like, no, the veteran's the better option right now. Like, what we're not going. I see the rookie every single day at practice. Right. Don't you think I want to win games? I see the rookie every day. He's not ready. But if the mob becomes so loud that you either can't do anything about it, or it becomes so loud that like the owners maybe get involved and they're like, hey, you better start this kid because we're 500 or we're a game below 500, then sometimes it doesn't even really matter. Like, and I think that Connor bringing up the Anthony Richardson point is a really great one, because not that I want to turn this entire podcast into a Chris Ballard dissertation thesis statement, because I feel like
Go ahead, do it.
We could for the next 3 hours.
I'm down to pivot.
But when you look,
I almost did when Connor said you can't do the bridge thing forever. I was like,
you can.
But that's what makes the Colts such a perfect, you know, case study for what we're talking about, because they went after Andrew Luck. Who was first for them? Was it Matt
Ryan?
No, Matt Ryan was last.
Or was it Rivers then Matt Ryan?
It was like Rivers.
Oh no, it was Jacoby Brissett.
But Brissett was in there. What, like Foles was in there, wasn't he? Like Foles.
Was he?
He played for, you know what, Josh Johnson. I'm just gonna play a safe one. I'm gonna get a base hit here. He was somewhere around the team. No, but like you played Phillip Rivers, you played Matt Ryan. You had already done the bridge thing. And the reason why you did the bridge thing is why? Because you were waiting for the right quarterback. Now you get in a situation where you've done that for the last 3 years in a row. The fans are getting impatient here. And the thing is, again, bring it back to the topic of today's episode. I pulled up the Colts depth chart right before week 1 of the 2023 season. So remember, Richardson got drafted in the 2023 draft. This is right before the season. Guys, their O-line was Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fry's about to go into, I believe, that really, really good year from Will, and then Braden Smith at right tackle. That's one of the most solid offensive lines in the NFL. So one of the points that I was going to make here on the show is I'd make sure the offensive line's pretty solidified before you get a quarterback. Okay, that box is checked there. You got stars, you got veterans, you got all of that right there. You got rising young guys. They're all right there. Receivers, you got Michael Pittman Jr. Alec Pierce wasn't quite Alec Pierce that we know today, but he's on the roster. You got Josh Downs as well, who is there. And you got Jonathan Taylor, who is, well, he wasn't coming off of a back-to-back 1,000-yard season, but he was coming off of an injured season. But 2 years before that, as a rookie and a sophomore in the NFL, he had over 1,000 yards.
He's still JT, yeah.
So you're in a situation where you go, yeah, that was kind of the perfect spot for Anthony Richardson to go. The issue is Gardner Minshew's the only other quarterback on the roster. So now you say to yourself, we don't have a choice. We basically have to play this player. I think Nick Foles was also there, but you're in a situation where, what are you going to go out there and, trot out another veteran quarterback that the fans the fans don't really care about, that they're apathetic about? So that situation is just so fascinating, because if you are on the side of build the team, which I feel like maybe I lean more towards, the Colts did that. And it still didn't work. And it didn't work because they chose the wrong quarterback situation. They got impatient with it. Kind of what Connor was saying, like, hey, this guy hasn't played a lot of football. Well, how do you get better at playing football? You got to play football. But it's such a fantastic example of this question coming to life of what you do here. Because I would have told you back in 2023, the Colts were ready. The Colts roster was ready for a quarterback, and it still didn't pan out because you just didn't have either the right one or the right situation, however you want to look at it. We've all been there. We've got big goals to eat healthier, eat better, but long days, maybe long work days or just cold days, no motivation, and you just don't feel like cooking. That's where Factor comes in. Prepared, fully cooked meals by dietitians and chefs right there for you so you can live a healthy lifestyle without planning or cooking. They've got quality, functional ingredients, whether it comes to the proteins, the greens, whatever you're looking for to hit your macros the right way. Got a lot of diversity in what they're going to offer and what your taste buds want as well. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no seed oils in these products either. These are meals that fit your goals and your schedule. So you're hitting your protein, you're eating healthier, and you're feeling better as well. They've got over 100 rotating meals for you guys to choose from. So whether what's most important is hitting your protein goals, maybe it's sticking to a Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, just calorie maintenance, whatever that looks like, there's tons of meals out there for you with Factor. Head to factormeals.com/bootleg50off and use the promo code bootleg50off, 50OFF, to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor.
Based on all the data that I pulled, which plays into offensive line as well as just overall roster quality, and keep in mind, we had worked on this for probably 2 weeks or so since the last show that we did, where we pulled offensive line quality as far as pressure percentage allowed both in year one as well as year two for every single first-round quarterback drafted since 2015, which was a lot of them, right? Going back to the Winston Mariota year. We also looked at, okay, what's the number of Pro Bowlers and All-Pros on the roster that made a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro the year before, as well as 2 years before. So what is the overall roster quality? We looked at what's the number of homegrown contracts that got extended. What's the number of free agents? Like what is the situation these guys were going into? And the conclusion that I came to really wasn't necessarily a conclusive conclusion. More so it was just, if the QB is good enough, none of that data actually matters. And I'll explain to you why.
Yeah.
If you're looking at quarterbacks, of all the first round quarterbacks in their rookie years, the 10 best offensive lines as far as pressure percentage allowed were Bo Nix as a rookie. They made the playoffs that year. Jordan Love, he didn't play. Kyler Murray, kind of a screen merchant with Cliff Kingsbury there. So I was like, okay, take that with a grain of salt. That's why we look at true pass sets on PFF. Mac Jones, he actually looked competent as a rookie. Baker Mayfield set the rookie touchdown record at the time. Kenny Pickett, kind of meh. Lamar Jackson didn't play till halfway through the year, but they made the playoffs. 2025 Giants, Jackson Dart, I would say exceeded expectations. He had a pretty good offensive line as far as pass protection. 2016 Eagles, Carson Wentz was okay, and then he went on to be an MVP candidate the next year. And the 2020 Dolphins, who had a 10-6 record but missed the playoffs. So all of those quarterbacks, again, were among the 10 in the last decade, 10 best in the last decade for their offensive line. The bottom 10 offensive lines in their rookie years in terms of pressure percentage allowed were Deshaun. It was like 47%, which is absurd. Had a great rookie year till he got hurt, and then unfortunately kind of never really reached that high again, believe it or not. Josh Rosen immediately busted. Bryce got benched and then was revived later, as we talked about, once he learned to fail. Drake May, he's that guy. Paxton Lynch, immediate bust. Marcus Mariota never got to what he was supposed to be. One contract. Jared Goff took a while, but eventually got there when they fixed the offensive line and brought in Andrew Whitworth. Jameis Winston, fun, but never lived up to the hype. One contract guy in Tampa. And then JJ McCarthy, who knows, right?
Trending
and then,
instant bust.
Trending instant bust.
Yeah.
Here's the last one, Justin Herbert. Fucking cyborg, right? So if you have that guy, Drake May, Justin Herbert, doesn't really matter. If you have somebody who's kind of a shaky prospect to begin with, a bad offensive line makes them bust immediately. If you have a shaky prospect with a good offensive line, it gets them to their ceiling, which is just okay. And then you look at overall roster quality. If you're looking at guys that were drafted into situations where they had 4 or more starters on their team that made the Pro Bowl the year before, there was 13 total. And it's kind of a who's who of elite quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, who again didn't play, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and to a degree, Carson Wentz. All of those guys had 4 or more Pro Bowl guys on their roster. You contrast that with the guys who were drafted to 4 or more Pro Bowler rosters that didn't work out. It was, again, Paxton Lynch, Josh Rosen, Kenny Pickett, Trey Lance, and Dwayne Haskins. So you have the elite of the elite and also immediate busts. So that to me means that, okay, overall roster quality is not necessarily going to save these guys if the offensive line is bad. Then you look at the guys who were drafted into situations that had 1 or fewer returning Pro Bowlers on the roster. There were 17 of them because most first-round quarterbacks are drafted in situations where there's not that many Pro Bowlers.
Sure.
17 quarterbacks. 3 of them we think are going to work out. Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May. Again, if you have an alien, it's going to work out. 4 of them kind of worked, but not forever. Tua, Kyler, Deshaun, Daniel Jones. 4 of them we think could work, but too early to tell. Stroud, Bryce, Jaden Daniels, Cam Ward. 6 of them definitely didn't work. Mariota, Winston, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson. So all that to say, whether it's offensive line quality or roster quality, if you have the guy, they're the guy. It doesn't matter. If you do have a good roster, if you do have a good offensive line, you can kind of polish a turd here, but you're never going to get to that next level. So all that to say, if you believe he's an alien, take him first. If you don't believe he's an alien, build the roster first and hope to God you can get an alien later.
Yeah. It's almost like when you think of quarterbacks, like they're one of the numbers in like a multiplication equation where the rest of the roster, like, you know, anything, I'm just making this up, but like, let's say a quarterback is anywhere between, you know, the numbers 2 and 8. And that's sort of like where you rank them as like their own part of this equation. And then the rest of the roster, like, could also be, you know, something around that range where sure, like the roster can be fantastic, but like, you know, if you have a quarterback that you believe is a 7 caliber type of a quarterback, okay, when the rest of the roster, let's say it's, you know, it's a 4, right? Okay, that still comes out to be a 28. Whereas like if the rest of the roster is perfect, let's say it's an 8 out of 8, but the quarterback's a 3, that's still 21. That's still less than what it is for the quarterback who's more talented. So it's almost like there is this weighted math equation that could go into it. Now, obviously, the hard part is assigning the value to the numbers of on a quarterback, but like there is a math equation for all of this, but kind of like what you're saying, a little bit of a duh, you know, us taking 30 minutes to kind of talk about everything and get back to the duh. The most important, you know, difference maker is the quarterback really good? And if he is, the force multiplier for a good roster can turn you into a Super Bowl champion. And if for a bad roster, maybe it's still, you make good with it because the quarterback's that good. But if the quarterback's bad, then there's only so far the multiplier can go in the other direction.
Which then comes around to the real crux of the issue, which is, are you good at evaluating quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Right.
Or are you assigning the wrong multiplier to these guys that you're grading?
Right.
And what, you know, when looking at the Jets, they've taken some swings and some misses, but I don't necessarily, you know, when you brought up the Kevin O'Connell quote, organizations fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail organizations. Mm-hmm. I actually look at the flip side, which is good quarterbacks save bad general managers more than bad general managers ruin rookie quarterbacks.
Yep.
And yes, there are guys like Sam Darnold where they go to a situation that's just so bad that they're never going to flourish there, and it's going to take them a while to reach their full potential. Like, that is absolutely a thing. But I don't look at the 2024 Patriots as like a better destination for Drake May than if he went to those Jets teams in 2018 or 2021. Like, the Patriots are objectively bad. They had a bad coaching staff, they had a bad roster, and Drake May was still that guy. And so I think if you're really good at quarterback evaluation, you're going to know when to pull that trigger. If you're not good at quarterback evaluation, or if you allow yourself to be governed by desperation, then you are going to end up in a situation where you're taking Zach Wilson second overall.
Right.
Knowing that Trevor Lawrence was honestly, realistically, the only guy in that class that maybe could have saved them, but they didn't have the first overall pick, so it is what it is. But they were desperate enough. They're like, well, maybe Zach Wilson could be that guy. You'll never convince me that they were totally sure of that, though.
Right. And that class had so many different guys. Like, Zach Wilson was a disaster, but Trey Lance obviously
wasn't great either.
Was not good at all. Justin Fields has floated around trying to kind of give hope to be the next one of these guys that breaks through after being in a bad situation, but he just doesn't have that kind of ceiling as a passer to do that. And you look at Mac Jones, who has a nice floor, but he's the perfect guy for the situation. Kind of dictates what you're going to get out of Mac Jones, because we saw it in two different ways in New England with Mac Jones. We saw it when the infrastructure was right around him, that Mac would be a completely adequate quarterback. And then we saw when things took a few steps down, it fell apart. So, and that's why I'm so fascinated with Mendoza in this class, because not to compare Mendoza to Mac Jones in any way, I don't think that's fair. But is Mendoza going to be one of the guys, Brett, that you just said just holds the weight of the world above his head, even when like Burrow does that, right?
Still, after 5 years.
Still does that. Is he going to be in that tier, or is he going to be more in the Goff peak Kirk Cousins tier of like, we can win a lot of games with this guy when we have everything around him right?
Yep.
But if there's some cracks here, we're going to expose ourselves a little bit. And I think that's the most important combo with me in this draft with Mendoza. Do you think he is that absolute alien quarterback, or do you think he's more in the middle of the pack where everything has to be right and you're going to kind of dictate the ceiling that you bring for him? And it's very relevant in this draft.
There's timeline, and then there's that piece that you started us off with, Brett, and Connor, you just touched on it, is you're going to know, right? You're going to know in the first year. And I've been saying this for 2 or 3 years about quarterbacks, even in bad situations. If a quarterback is good enough, you will see the flashes. Caleb's first year was terrible. There were flashes. Still a lot of things he needed to work on, but everybody still went, oh, okay, that guy can play. Same thing with Drake May. Same thing with Herbert, a season that you brought up, Brett, like had one of the best rookie seasons ever in a not great situation. But you knew it after week one. That guy is a guy we should put the hammer down and build around. And there's lots of other quarterbacks on that list that you labeled and we didn't see it. And that's when the excuses start. Oh, if there's a better offensive line. Oh, if he had more weapons. Oh, if his coaching staff didn't fail him. And you're still like, did we see the flashes? So we're going to know with Mendoza. That's the first thing, is after the first year, we're going to know if he has those flashes, because we all know the roster is not going to be great. And the other one is, that's relevant for this draft about the Raiders, is you got to build the plane as you're flying it. You got to take all those picks you got and pack offensive line in front of them.
They're trying.
They're going to have to, right? You have to do it at once. We started off the episode with the fundamental question of which one do you do first? And the answer here is yes, you have the spot to get the quarterback, the only quarterback in this draft. You go get him, because you hope that you're not going to be in that spot again. And because you're doing that, don't stop. Like, put the hammer down. Don't say, oh, we'll see after the first year and see if he's good. Like, do everything you can to make him good in that first year and hope both things advance at the same rate. Will they? Not terribly likely, but we'll know if Mendoza shows those flashes, because good quarterbacks do, regardless of the situation. And the Raiders just have to put the hammer down. Like, they have to do everything they can to make sure that happens.
I do want to ask you guys a question about Mendoza versus Simpson, because that's been kind of a topic of discussion. Dan Orlovsky came out and said that he has Ty Simpson number one. And then I think it was Tannenbaum said that he had asked around with some people and they're like, oh yeah, that's actually like not that crazy of an opinion, when I was talking to my friends in the league. And then I think it was either Kuiper or McShay said that, well, the people I've talked to said that actually is kind of a crazy opinion, like Mendoza far away number one. So I'll start with this. A, is it even close for you guys? And B, is Ty Simpson one of these quarterbacks where even if you don't think he's an alien, you think a team maybe in the 20s or a team maybe trading up from the top of the second round to get that fifth year of control? Do you think he's one of these guys where it's like, okay, if we do build the roster first, we can get that Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff kind of, ceiling or floor, however you want to phrase it? Like, is he one of those guys where we hope he can be the 12th best quarterback in the league? And if not, how long would you go before you'd even take Ty Simpson if you don't even think he could be number 12 in the league?
I don't think it's close between Mendoza and Simpson.
Agree.
And I like Simpson. It feels like the Simpson roller coaster has been crazy, right? Like at one point I had him QB1, like in the middle of the college football season, because he was coming off those 6 or 7 weeks where like he looked phenomenal. And then the second half of the season, he really struggled, particularly struggled under pressure, sort of unraveled. I know he was playing through injury. And it was like, all right, now we gotta adjust for that. Okay, he's going through some ups and downs. He's only a 1-year starter. He's still growing. You got to account for that when you're talking about him in the NFL. And then I rewatched his tape and I'm like, man, you know what? He does do a lot of NFL stuff. He's making protection calls. And again, first-year starter. He's making protection calls. He's going through progressions. He's making protection calls, He's going through progressions. He's getting to backside digs. He throws over the middle of the field more often and better than basically every quarterback in this class, including Mendoza. Mendoza did a lot of stuff outside the numbers, but Ty Simpson did a lot of stuff over the middle, which I feel really good about. Yeah, his play under pressure really struggled, but you can kind of expect that for a guy who was playing in the SEC as a first-time starter. And so I was like, you know what? I feel like, late second, early third round grade for Ty Simpson feels pretty right. And I really do think that there is a world where he can be a nice starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't know how long he would be a starting quarterback. I think situations and honestly, sometimes first impressions kind of go a long way towards longevity at the quarterback position. So there's a lot of things outside his control. But ultimately, I do think he's got an NFL arm. Like, it's not the greatest arm in the world, but I think it's adequate for the NFL. I do see him attack the middle of the field like a lot of these other quarterbacks are scared to do. He's not exactly scared to do it. He knows what he has to do to win from his position, and I think that's important. And I think that whether you draft him back end of the first round, early part of the second round, I think it's just going to be so different for every team. But I do, as somebody who it feels like I was higher on Ty Simpson than a lot of people, and now over the last week and a half, it feels like now I'm low on Ty Simpson. So I'm just like, hey, yeah, Ty Simpson's getting some extra love, and now it's like, wait a second, and it's just like I'm watching the hype just continue to go.
The hot
up
air balloon is leaving. I'm on the ground.
It's just like, oh God, now we're too high and I can't even see you. But I would clearly take Mendoza over Ty Simpson. I've said this before. I would take Mendoza over Cam Ward from last year's class as well. I think Mendoza is somebody that you could build a franchise around. I'm excited to see him with the Raiders, specifically with John Spytek at the helm, building out the rest of that roster. But I do still think that Simpson is somebody who can win you games in this league. And if he lands in the right spot and he gets with a good coach, I really do think that we could have a situation where he's a multi-year starter. Maybe it's not maybe he's not a long tier 2 contract, like full contract type of a guy, but it feels like that's pretty rare today anyway. So anytime I identify a quarterback where I say, you can win in this league, it's hard for me to totally write them off, because at that point, then it's just all about where they land and what coach they get to deal with.
How valuable is that though?
Right. It's a good question. Like the quarterback prospects that you can find in a higher quantity compared to the guys that you can't.
So what Brett's saying is that quarterback's the new running back, essentially. That you could just, you can find him whenever.
I'm just saying. The
year.
Saints found Tyler Shuck in the second round, and they started him as a rookie, not immediately, but they started him as a rookie. He played really well. Mm-hmm. They're going to have another 3-year runway of Tyler Shuck being cheap and ideally competent, and now that they're getting out of the cap hell that they've been in for half a decade, they're going to have a bunch of money to spend next year. Ideally, we're keeping Olave around and Olave stays healthy. We have a young offensive line with a tackle duo that we like a lot. We have a coach that we like a lot. There's an opportunity for the Saints to have a really nice 2-year window here with Tyler Shuck. And even if he is the 15th best starting quarterback in the league on a second-round contract, that is one of the best contracts in football. Right. But then you're setting yourself up though with if Ty Simpson is that, if he's Tyler Shuck, then what do you do?
I would take Ty Simpson late first, early second round. I would. And I'm getting closer towards the thinking of true second round, third round quarterbacks don't exist. Like I'm starting to get to that point where I go, you are either getting picked in the top 5 as a quarterback or, top 10, you guys know what I'm saying. You're either getting picked number 1 overall, you're getting picked in the top 10, you're getting picked in the top 40, or I don't
Day
really
3.
care. Right.
Day 3.
Or it's like I'm picking a day 3 quarterback that I think is going to be a great veteran for multiple contracts. Right. And I'm never going to want him to start for me, ideally. So I don't know if this, and that's why, like, I think Simpson is in that bucket of guys that I would take at the back end of the first. And depending on situationally how the draft goes, early part of the second, if the draft is really talented, but mainly a back end of the first round quarterback, because I think he can be a mid-tier quarterback in the league. Some fans would look at that and scoff, and they go, well, you don't have to, if you don't have the opportunity, like, again, if you're the Steelers are the big conversation with Ty Simpson, right? What do you do? Aaron Rodgers isn't there yet. You've only got Will Howard and Mason Rudolph on the roster. Maybe Derek Carr's in the mix. I don't know. Who knows? But if I'm the Steelers, I like Ty Simpson in this Mike McCarthy offense. Like, I think you could win games. I really do. And you're just, some fans would say, well, if we're not drafting a quarterback in the top 5, I don't want one at all. And the reality is the league just doesn't work like that. It's just not really, you might as well not root for this to happen because it's not going to happen. Instead, you could get a quarterback that could still win you some pretty big games, and maybe he even surprises you a little bit more. So I'd take the swing on him. I would take the swing on him at the back end of the first round. I would.
Well, it's an easy stance when, you're literally me sitting here saying, like, I wouldn't do that. But that's not how the NFL works all the time. Look at the Giants last year. We have video of the draft room when they were taking Jackson Dart. Joe Schoen does not sound like a man that thinks Jackson Dart is going to save his job and the organization, which is very ironic now, looking back at it. He literally says to Brian Daboll, all right, we're going to roll the dice. We're going to take your guy. Yep. And the Giants had to take a quarterback last year. They had to. They had no choice. They couldn't get up for Cam Ward. So then they went into the bucket of, okay, we need to really eval Shuck, Dart, Shador, and figure out who is the guy that we can maximize with Brian Daboll here. It looks like they chose right. Unfortunately for Brian Daboll, it didn't save him, but Joe Schoen is still there, and it made the Giants a very attractive destination. But that's an example of a lot of people sitting at home and probably like, I wouldn't bet my franchise on Jackson Dart. Well, you don't have to, because you don't have a franchise that you're stealing.
That's right.
But for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, we talk about climate and circumstance. They didn't have the number 1 overall pick to take Cam Ward, even though they loved Cam Ward. So they had to get creative, and it was a little bit of a leap of faith. Like, once again, I watched that draft room video. I'm like, there was a lot of people in the organization that loved Jackson Dart. Duh, of course. And there's a lot to love about Jackson Dart, the player and the person. But I don't watch Joe Schoen in that moment and think, like, he is competent to bet that if he was, he would have taken him in the top 5. They had a top 5 pick. That's where these scenarios, once again, can be very difficult to navigate because you simply just don't have a choice sometimes. And the supply isn't always great. It ended up working out last year, but I think, will teams run into that this year? Not to a lesser extent. Like, Simpson's the only guy, right? I don't think a team, going back to your point, Trev, and I agree with you, I don't think a team is going to be in the top 40 after Mendoza and Simpson go, and they're like, Nussmeier or Cole Payton or Drew Aller are going to bail us out here. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen because that's just so hard to talk yourself into.
And they might get picked in the 3rd round, right? Like, they might get picked there, but, like, I just don't subscribe to that. At that point in time, if I don't think that you're a top 40 quarterback, then I probably don't believe in you a lot as a starter anyway. So again, like, people will give me examples of, well, this quarterback was drafted in the 3rd round or the late 2nd or whatever, and he worked out. That's fine. I'm talking about pre-draft evaluation. Correct. If I think you're good enough to start, I'm probably tagging you as a late 1st, early 2nd round quarterback at worst. So I would draft you appropriately there if I have that pick to do so. If not, then yeah, I'm probably just going to wait and pick a guy who I think is going to be a veteran in the league for a long time.
Hey guys, you know the deal. We could talk about the NFL draft a lot. That means longer episodes where the back and forth, it gets pretty heated sometimes. And nobody, I mean nobody, wants a smelly co-host. Fortunately, Mando keeps us smelling good. No panic sweats when a certain team is on the clock, just pure confidence to get it right. And no fear to raise those arms in celebration. You can find Mando products at your local retailer or just head to shopmando.com because for a limited time, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. That's right. Use code BOOTLEG at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's code BOOTLEG, SHOPMANDO.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness.
So what it really comes down to is we keep saying the words, if I believe. If I, whether it comes to Simpson or Mendoza or May or Caleb or Jaden, if I believe they're the guy, I'm going to pick them. Whether I have a good situation or not, whether I'm picking in the top 10 or not, whether I'm trading back into the first round or not. If I believe in this guy, I'm going to pick him. So the question, we're kind of answering the question, honestly, of like, yeah, you take the quarterback first, but you better be right.
Right.
If you're not right, you lose your job.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to EJ's point about Caleb and Drake May. When those environments weren't right, both from a personnel and even coaching standpoint, those guys physically gave you moments of like, oh, there's something there. Even if it's not consistent right now because the environment doesn't prop them up for it to be consistent, there's moments that we can build off of. And that's kind of how you know, or at least have an inkling that like, okay, we might have gotten the right guy. Where areas for other guys, you feel like everything has to be so perfect around them. So yeah, it's a wide-ranging combo.
Cam Ward's first year, not good in Tennessee, like in terms of what was around him. That was a bottom
Disaster
3 situation in the NFL.
Yeah, no coaching.
Terrible situation. If you watched late season Titans games, they were there. Those moments are there. Same moments you saw from Caleb in year 1, same moments you saw from Drake May. Like if I'm the Titans, I feel pretty good about let's surround Cam Ward and see what we get because he was still doing it in an abjectly horrible situation. But so many of these conversations are rooted, to your point, Trevor, in outside of reality, especially when you talk to fans and they say, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, my mom told me that just because I didn't like both choices as a kid didn't mean I didn't have to make a choice still. And that's what fans will do. Well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't take him that high because I don't believe. I would wait until I could find a great quarterback in the 5th round. That's not how the NFL works. Just because you don't like the choices, you still have to make one. If you're not going to say we believe in this quarterback and push him up and draft him appropriately because you're going to need to, because there's always competition, then you're going to have to do something else. And what the something else is back to your point, Connor. You don't have to make that call because you don't have a team. But if you did, you would have to make a call. You can't trot out a team with no quarterback and say, we're just going to, run Wildcat all year. That's not reality. And there's this sort of, I've pushed fans on this for years. There's this sort of fictional quarterback bucket. They're like, well, I wouldn't do that. I was like, well, where would you get your quarterback then? Here's what's left in free agency this year. Well, I don't like those guys either. Well, great. What are you going to do? You going to trade for a good quarterback? Good luck. It never happens, right? You can't. If a team has a quarterback that's good, that they like, that they're sure of, you're not getting that guy pried out of that situation. So what are you going to do? And they think they can just pick them off a tree. It doesn't exist. You're getting them. You're either pushing them up in the draft because you believe in them, maybe overpaying for them because that's a reality. You're waiting and hoping that maybe somebody you draft in the middle round surprises you. I think the Cole Payton conversation is really interesting over this last month because he's that consensus kind of next guy that, at least in conversation, like, well, we don't necessarily think we should start right out of the gate, but he's got a lot of things that would work for a rookie. Maybe is he our guy? And then he could get pushed up and overdrafted. So it's like, what are you going to do if you can't do the ideal thing? If you're the Raiders, you got the number 1 overall pick. You grab your guy, they say that's Mendoza, and you run with it because that's the best chance you have. And those chances for all teams are really, really, really rare in the NFL.
I think the value of taking a guy, and I'm going to try to gaslight Trev here real quick. The value of taking Drew Aller in the 3rd round. Let's just say you think he can start or think he can get to a place where he can start because he's a bunch of tools, right? And either the reality is the average number of starting quarterbacks for every single team in the league is about 2.5. per year. Now, that's some teams only have one the entire year because their guy miraculously stays healthy. Some of them, like Cleveland, have like 4 by the middle of the year. And so it comes out to about 2.5 on average. And so the value of having a guy that you think can get you through a couple games while making nothing, because third round picks relative to actual starting quarterbacks that get paid, they make nothing. That is where you get that plus value, where if you have an established veteran, you just keep drafting guys in day 2 or early day 3 that you think can get you through those dark periods that make nothing. And then best case scenario, if it's a Malik Willis that goes out and gets paid in free agency, you're going to get that pick back, right? So you're getting plus value on the contract for getting starts out of a quarterback for no money, and you get a pick out of it later. You know, you look at Ty Huntley, you look at Malik Willis, you look at like Davis Mills. If Davis Mills was available, he probably would have got paid somewhere to like, okay, get us through this
Definitely.
season. Right? Like that's the value of doing that kind of recycle bin approach to quarterbacks. And I think it wasn't, was it Ron Wolf who I think
Yes,
Yes.
it sure was.
kind of espoused that of
Draft a
drafting
quarterback
guys
every year, and he made a
Mm-hmm.
living on it in Green Bay. A very different league at that point in terms of player movement and everything else, but he was very successful with that. And then there was a time where I really feel like that probably wasn't the best case scenario because the NFL just wasn't working that way. And now with the success of guys like Darnold, and we'll see about Malik Willis and everything else, and there was a lot of conversation you said around Davis Mills, around guys like Tanner McKee, who are like, what's that guy worth if he can play? He's had some good preseason starts. That's, you know, is that enough for an organization starving for half decent quarterback play? It probably is if you make those guys available. There's a lot of talk about Mac Jones, right? Mac Jones sort of reclamation project, bounced around the league, had some quality starts, looked good in the Shanahan offense. Everybody, including us, was talking about him this offseason as like, hey, if Shanahan lets him shake loose, he's going to get paid as a starter, a mid-level starter, but he's getting paid as a starter. Shanahan said, nope, I know what he's worth. If Brock Purdy's not on the field, I need my Mac Jones. You can't have him. And it's changing to where I think it's coming back around to that, where if you're taking those mid-round swings, there you go. That's what you're going to do with them, is get them a couple of starts and then flip them for a pick.
And just to respond to that and wrap up, because I know we got to get to player stuff, but what you said, Brett, I subscribe to that thought process, but just again, like with day 3 quarterbacks, to be honest with you, like, if you tell me I got to take Drew Aller, you know, top 100, you know, maybe even like beginning of the 4th round kind of a thing, like I'd probably let somebody else take him. The quarterback that you're talking about that I like the most in this class is like Luke Altmaier, where I look at Luke Altmaier and I go, okay, yeah, he's undersized, right? And obviously like that part of it goes into it. But essentially what Luke Altmaier is not a super physically gifted quarterback, but one who I'll probably draft. And like you guys are talking about, like when you get a guy in your organization, you know if he's got the stuff between the ears pretty quickly. And like Altmaier is probably somebody that I draft day 3 because he doesn't have the physical tools that everybody else does. But I look at his situation and I go, all right, I'm good with you for the next 3 years, probably. You know, if you got a spot start for me, if you got to be a backup, and then once you get into your second contract, then you've really seen stuff. You've probably been a spot starter a little bit here and there. You've played a bunch in the preseason. You've got a lot of practice reps. You get what it's like to be a pro. So from that perspective, I do get the volume and the numbers game. But again, I am not somebody who likes to speak in absolutes. I'm not a Sith. So when it comes to me saying like I'd never draft a quarterback in the 3rd round, that's also not true. Everything is a little bit situationally infused, but for the most part, I am much more of a, you're either drafting this quarterback in the 1st round / top 40, or I'm gonna wait till like 135, and then I'll start thinking about it after that. That's just normally how I subscribe to the position.
All right. Lot to unpack there. I think we kind of landed on the overall thesis of you're going to have to take the guy when the guy is available.
Yeah,
it
doesn't matter.
There's no perfect climate to kind of walk the line, but the infrastructure clearly matters a lot for a majority of the quarterbacks besides the unicorns that can rise above it. We kind of have an interesting player-by-player segment today because it's consensus board season. There's so many different boards out there right now. You have forecasters, you have guys ranking. It all gets meshed into one giant pile to kind of bring together these rankings. We're going to start with the players that we're higher on than consensus. And Trevor, I'm with you all the way on yours.
D'Angelo Pons, baby.
Let's go.
Give me D'Angelo Pons.
An outlier worth betting on.
Right now, he is in the 50s on consensus boards. He's right around sort of that mid to late second round range because of the size, right? He's a shade under 5'9". He's right around 180 pounds. I get it. Where I think I had his mock draftable chart here. Yeah, he's 2nd percentile in height, 11th percentile in weight, 7th percentile wingspan, 2nd percentile in arm length. So he is somebody who is a true outlier, especially when you consider projecting him to potentially be an outside cornerback. But I have him top 25 right now, and I think that that's where he's going to stay on my big board as a top 25 player in this class. So I think that that counts for him being 30 spots ahead of where he is on a consensus board. And the reason why is because obviously what people saw this past year on the national championship run, just the dog mentality that he plays with at all times. There is zero fear in his eyes, and you've got to be a little bit crazy to be a good cornerback in the NFL, because playing corner, you have to believe that you are the baddest dude on the field no matter what actually happens, right? And I don't mean like no matter who you're going up against. I mean no matter what actually happens, because you, memory of a goldfish, Ted Lasso thing, like you've got to have that as a corner. You've got to believe if you get mossed 3 times in a row by the same receiver, I still need my corner to go, I don't care. I'm getting you on the next one. You're not better than me. Like there could be overwhelming evidence mounting against you, and I still need my corners to believe that they're better than every single receiver that they're going up against. I feel like D'Angelo Pons plays with that level of confidence. You see really great coverage grades from him over the last couple of years, specifically this past year when he had an elite coverage grade as an outside receiver. He played sparingly in press coverage roles, as you would expect with his size, through the first couple of years of his career, but he played more press coverage this past year than any year in not only volume, but also percentile. He is somebody who I could see playing both inside and on the outside at the next level. I am perfectly okay with that, and the reason why I feel great about all the above there with him is over the last 3 seasons for him, he has had a single-digit missed tackle percentage in all situations despite being 5'9", 180 pounds. And this past year, overall, against the run or the pass, 2.9% missed tackle percentage. What corner's doing that, let alone the one who's 5'9", 180 pounds? The second that he got on campus at JMU, Curt Cinetti was like, oh, okay. He started 10 of his first 13 games as a true freshman at JMU, then obviously moves over to Indiana when Curt Cinetti goes over to Indiana, and he was one of the best defensive players in the country this past year in his final year of college football. I think he's a first-round caliber prospect. I would draft this player in the first round, and I think he's a starter for you on the outside or the inside, hopefully with a secondary group that is very versatile like he can be, and you feel pretty good about that. So D'Angelo Pons is my player that I am higher on than consensus.
I like him better than Avian Terrell, and I know that's not popular, but out of the smaller corner bracket, and Terrell came in a little bigger than I thought.
They're close for me. They're very close. They're around the same spot.
I liked Pons better, specifically in coverage, one-on-one. So it'll be, I don't think it'll go that way for the league. I think Terrell will go before him. But I think Pons is just one of those rare outliers, because I do not typically like smaller corners or receivers, but he does not play small, and he has a big personality to back up his play style.
Corners, to your point, Trevor, that crazy guy in the war movie where they're sitting there waiting for the charge to come in, and the guy goes, well, I like these odds. You're like, what are you talking about? It's 3,012.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we got him right where we want him. You know, that's who you need to be your corner on your team. And Pons has that mentality, backs it up, physical from his size. Reminds me a lot of Amik Robertson, and everybody said the same thing about Amik Robertson. Played a lot outside in college. He's an absolute dog. He can't do it in the league. He's going to have to move inside. He did for the first couple of years. Detroit's played him outside with good result, and I think Pons is even better a player than Amik Robinson. But like you said, Connor, it's rare. It's really rare to have all those measurables in single digits and still go like, I like him. I like him a lot.
EJ, what about you for this?
For me, I'm not picking a small player. I'm picking a tall player, 6'3", 207. Bryce Lance, wide receiver, North Dakota State. Current rank on consensus boards, 90. I see him in a much brighter light than that. He's wide receiver 16 on the consensus board we used. That doesn't seem right to me. And why is that? It's a wide receiver that it's all about explosion in the NFL, and explosive plays really govern how your offense works. And there is, I don't think, any player better in this draft in terms of crafting explosive plays. He's 21.2 yards per catch. Interesting. You talked about progression, Trev, with Pons. In his 3 years at North Dakota State, his average per catch went from, this is very mathematically pleasing, 7 to 14 to 21 in the last 3 years. So
we love easily divisible numbers here.
Isn't that great?
The less fractions, the better.
That's the analytics that we can all
Says the
get
PFF guy.
Advanced analytics, aka math. Passer rating when being targeted, 149.8. This is the reason we're talking about Cole Payton is because Bryce Lance was there. And you know me, Brett, I can't bring up a wide receiver without talking about yards per route run. Any guesses? Again, anything over 2 is very good in college or the pros, certainly in the NFL.
Yards per route run?
Yards per route run, Bryce Lance.
I mean, it feels like all of his catches are explosive. So
I was going to say,
got to be in the
I bet it's, I was going to say like 3-1-2. That's my guess.
3-1-2?
3.12.
Any other guesses?
I think Trevor's in the right ballpark.
He's in the right ballpark, but he's low. 3.57.
No way.
It's absurd.
Yes,
3.57?
We're talking about JSN territory. We're talking
that's like when Tyreek Hill was uncoverable type of stuff.
And to have that player be 90th overall in a league that is thirsty for that particular talent, to have him be wide receiver 16, he's not going to do everything for you, but besides those explosive catches, he is a great blocker. He played at North Dakota State. He has that dog in him. He uses his size. You can see him seal defensive ends coming inside on little smash plays. And he's a difference maker when he's on the field. And it's very much to me like, and this is not scouting the helmet, Christian Watson. When Christian Watson's on the field for the Packers, they're a different offense. They have an explosive component they do not have when he's not there. And when Bryce Lance is on the field for the Bison, the defense has to account for a level of threat that is just something that is very difficult to deal with. You cannot pack in a defense when Bryce Lance is on the field because he will go over the top and score on you, and that will be that. And that is a skill set that the league is so covetous of that I am sure that he is going to be drafted better than wide receiver 16. I'm sure they see it that way. He's got very good hands. His drop percentage is not super high. His contested catch rate, Brett, I know you love this one, 66.7. So tremendous body control.
Elite.
Yeah, knows how to get up, over, around defenders and make the catch, keep his feet in on the sidelines. There are multiple highlights. My favorite one's probably San Diego State in 24. Twists and turns, keeps his feet in a way that very few receivers can do. So not only does he have the size, he uses it in blocking. He uses it in the wide receiver game. Very fluid runner. His fakes at speed just dust people. He carries speed through cuts, and there's no recovering. He's that fast. So lots of little things I love about his game. At the catch point, just a subtle enough push for contact. He's not going to get called for it. Late, quick hands. We love to see that from wide receivers, that body position, finishing through contact, all the little things. That all adds up to a guy that is being undervalued. If you believe he's barely a top 100 player, I think 2-3 years, if he stays healthy, we're going to look back at that ranking and just laugh.
I went with a guy in a very similar range. EJ, you had Bryce Lance, pass catcher, that was around 90. I went with Sam Roush, the tight end from Stanford, at 102. And this happens to a lot of inline tight ends a lot where, they kind of fall into this like 3rd round, 4th round no man's land, and you're trying to pick from the pack, and it can be really, really tricky. But when you look at Roush at 102, there are so many tests he's passed already that he could legitimately be your main inline tight end. 6'6", 267. He's got short arms, although the arm length problems from the combine are just becoming more and more difficult to digest. But he's got shorter arms, 10-inch hands, runs the 4.7. More importantly, the 38.5-inch vertical, the explosives test. Actually did the 3-cone, gets the badge of honor for doing the agilities.
Look at that.
Yeah, actually.
There we go, brother.
A tight end or a pass catcher that actually did the agilities, 708 3-cone, that's 64th percentile. Although, I don't know how you guys would feel about this. I almost have to weigh the agilities different now because, yeah, he's 64th percentile, but nobody does them anymore.
Only the good ones do it.
So, in reality, he's better than the 64th percentile in the league. It's just that nobody's that's not good at them is doing them. So I actually thought that was a positive for Roush. 49 catches this year. He was just the underneath safety blanket for this offense because he's quick. That's where it goes back to the jumps. Like he's quick enough off the line of scrimmage as an inline guy to eat up the short center area of the field. Like the middle of the field, he caught 27 of his 38 targets in that short center area of the field because he's big. He could shield defenders. I love him after the catch. 6.5 yards after catch per reception, 70th percentile. He's big. He runs hard. He played rugby before he played football, so you can kind of see that background as well. Super high effort in line. He's played over 1,000 snaps in line over the last 2 years. High effort run blocker. Hands are extremely active. This is where the length, like he's not going to sustain blocks as long as guys with longer arms. And this is going to be the one knock on him. But it's not for a lack of effort, intensity, the hand usage. This is something to me that kind of happened in Tucker Kraft's draft year. Like people kind of just looked at him as like just another guy. And it's like, well, he plays inline. He's good at inline things as in drive blocking. He takes those short area, middle of the field catches and creates yards after the catch with size and strength. Roush isn't Kraft, but he does a lot of those things really, really well that don't get enough attention in scouting. And you look at guys like this that are getting paid right now. Like Charlie Kolar just got a big deal from the Chargers. Yep. Charlie Kolar blocks his ass off. He's a big body that you can utilize on the line of scrimmage. That's not going to show up in a box score as much. And I feel like that's happened to Roush a little bit. I think he's better than player 102 in this draft.
He is somewhere on the spectrum between Kraft and a name that I hold near and dear to my heart. His career didn't last as long as it should have because of injuries, but I thought he was a good player when he was around. CJ Fedoritz. Remember him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Out of
Iowa State,
Iowa.
Right?
Iowa
State. I think it was Iowa. I think it was
another Iowa tight end. Yeah.
Oh, imagine.
And same body type, wide tight end, block. Kraft is better after the way better after the catch, but like that spectrum of player, he is somewhere in that spectrum, which is a starting tight end in the NFL. So if you're getting that at 102, that's pretty damn good. Now, speaking of quote unquote alleged arm length issues by Big Combine.
Get after him. Get after him.
Yep.
Get after
we
him,
are
baby.
seeing as pro day season has progressed, by the way, we were correct. These measurements are bullshit. Apparently nobody can find the AC joint. Anyway, Caleb Tiernan, tackle at Northwestern. And at the Combine, I thought he looked so fluid. And like you see that on tape too, especially when he was out in space at Northwestern. But like going through the bag drills, I was like, wow, he is really redirecting for a guy who's 6'8", 325. And I didn't believe the alleged arm length of I think it was 32 and a quarter. I'm not saying he has like crazy long arms. So I was like, okay, he's more than that. But the way that he plays, he doesn't let his quote unquote average length hamper him as a player. Like he is constantly resetting and refitting his hands so that, like Akis, he went up against Akis in that game and he got him a couple times, but you saw him consistently, like anytime Gabe got inside of his chest, he's like, okay, I'm going to refit. I'm going to constantly make sure that I am in a comfortable position where even though I can't outreach him, he's never going to be able to neutralize me for more than like a quarter of a second. And so I think he's a very technically good tackle. He is way better in space than he has any right to be at 6'8", 325. way more nimble than you expect at that size. And he's number 75 on the consensus board. And I'm like, okay, if he is a starting tackle in the NFL and you're getting that at the first half of the third round, that's pretty darn good, right? Like the Bears have made a living on that over the last 15 years, getting tackles, starting tackles outside the first round. They have like 3 of them on the roster right now. Like obviously they got Darnell on the right side, who's top 10 pick. Their left tackle for a generation and a half has been guys that they got outside the first round, and they've made it work. And Tiernan is exactly that kind of profile where it's like, okay, if he could be like our Bernhard Raimann type, second round, third round, starting immediately, solid. We think he can go up from there. Like we talk about, getting value on quarterbacks that can start games for you in the third round. If you're getting a 17 game starter at tackle without spending first round money on it, that's an incredible value. I think he's going to go way higher than 75.
Yeah, and when you look at his PFF grades, first 2 years that he was a starter, pass grades above 73 in both of those seasons for his first 2 years. And then the last 2 years, both of them are above an 84. So like he's just been one of the most reliable pass protectors, and he just gets it. There's not a lot of panic to his game. He's got a lot of good technique. He anticipates things really well, especially for not having the longest arms. Like for you to have a pass blocking grade at offensive tackle above 84 in back-to-back seasons, I mean, you have to be a really good processor and anticipator. You have to understand what these other defensive ends and teams are going to try to throw at you, and he was ready for all of it. So I do agree. I think the ceiling is a little bit lower for Tiernan because like the run blocking stuff, he's not very impactful as a run blocker. But when it comes to having somebody who you feel good about going out there and saying like, hey man, don't get our quarterback killed. Like he is a very easy candidate as a young offensive tackle to have some faith in, which you really don't get to do that very often with young offensive tackles.
We will get back to it in just a second, I promise. But before we do that, we got to pay some bills. I want to thank our sponsor for today, Fast Growing Trees. If you haven't heard of Fast Growing Trees before, they are America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers. Whether it's for your home or for your yard, they have fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, houseplants, whatever you want for your climate, your space, your lifestyle, they've got it. All of the plants you order get delivered right to your door, and their Alive and Thrive guarantee promises that every plant gets to you happy and healthy. Plus, you can get ongoing support from plant experts over at Fast Growing Trees, so you can plan out your landscape, choose the right plants for it, and get care tips for every step along the way. Spring is almost here, and in a lot of the country, this is the best time to plant. So if you want to get ahead of schedule on that, go to fastgrowingtrees.com/bootleg. Check out the catalog. They have 1,600 plus different tree and plant options. And if you decide on something you like, use promo code bootleg. You'll get a 20% discount on your first order. Again, fastgrowingtrees.com/bootleg. Some stuff is up to half off right now, but if you use promo code bootleg, you at least get a 20% discount on your first order. Thank you once again to Fast Growing Trees for sponsoring today's show. And with that, let's get back to it. Now, as for the back half of this, players that were lower on than consensus, I might piss some people off with this one. And partially because it doesn't really have much to do with him as an actual player. It's more so, I cannot in good conscience, whichever one of those words is correct. I can't take Jordan Tyson at 14 overall. Somebody who is injured that often, has that many soft tissue injuries specifically. I don't know if it's because of how he runs. Like, do I need to get a track coach in there to kind of reteach him how to run without apparently injuring himself over and over and over again? I don't know if it's like a similar thing to what we saw with Christian Watson, where you had to have like a medical procedure to like fix something. Like, I don't know what it is that makes him have these soft tissue injuries. Maybe it's nutrition. It could be any number of things. Unless that is getting fixed and I have a plan for how to fix that and I know what the root cause of these injuries is, how can I take a receiver that is constantly hurt at 14th overall? I'm not going to get contract value out of that guy if he's not on the field. And he's a great player, like legitimately a great player. I can't rely on him. So he's one of the rare guys where I'm kind of divorcing the field grade from like the realistic expectation that I have for him, because the one thing that I can count on is that he will be banged up, unfortunately. And so I think I'm going to come in lower on Jordan Tyson than everybody, just because if you get injured that much at the college level in a shorter season, how can I possibly expect you in a 17 to 21 game NFL season to stay on the field?
I have a follow-up question for you, because I think everybody who watches Jordan Tyson can see the talent with him, but I think the conversation that you're bringing up is a good one. So I think the follow-up question is necessary. Is this a he's off my board, I would let somebody else draft him kind of a situation, or is it a I would take him in the second round still? Like, he's that talented where I would just second round, certainly he's not going to get to the third round, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Is there a line for you where you feel comfortable with it? Or is this a medically, this player is just off my board in all reality?
I will take him at the top of the second round because he's just going to be the best player on the board. But I know he's not going to get there. So I know realistically he's not going to be on my team.
There's a lot of players that are like that every year, where Connor and I start to have had this conversation more and more when we go through our player rankings, where there will be a player who one of us will just say, like, I would let somebody else draft him, because in all reality, they're going to go in the top 15, the top 12. And at that point, you can have him. Like, would I have him at 30, 40, something like that? Sure. But we know they're not going to get anywhere close. So the way that we talk about it is I would let somebody else draft this player. That's sort of the way that you think about it.
My guy is a different conversation, and that's Monroe Freeling right now, where he goes back to the curve that Trevor was kind of talking about, watching the balloon float away, where it's like, okay, we have this developmental tackle prospect on the top of day 2 that, like, people should be excited about.
Yeah.
Monroe Freeling is number 12 on the consensus board.
And getting mocked consistently at number 6 to the Browns.
That's exactly right. It's a tough one, especially when you look at recent tackle classes, I think, too, right? Maybe not last year. I can only speak for myself. Like, I thought Campbell was a guard, so Membu was obviously a guy that comes to mind, and Kelvin Banks, like, felt better about both of them pretty easily. You think of Alt, Olu, Fuanga. Latham was a little bit more polarizing, but still. I think with Freeling, if you're going to be hovering around being a top 10 pick, like, there is a lot of projecting here, man. Yeah, he's big. He's got long arms. He uses his length. He likes to disrupt pass rushers by striking first. You see the snatch and trap. Like, he's mastered that. I think he got better over his first year as a starter, which is good. The last 6 games don't look like the beginning of the season, which that matters a lot. In zone, you could see movement skills. But he leans, he lunges. When things are out on an island, you see more and more of that, which is, sometimes compensating. Initially, he could take on power, but when it turns into like that initial stalemate and kind of the almost sumo wrestling, he'll get pushed back. He starts to lose that war, so he's still trying to get stronger. And I think in the run game, I thought he was almost a total work in progress just because he's working on leverage and hand placement.
Yeah.
And it's all there for him to be a damn good NFL offensive tackle. I don't know if that's next year. And if I'm taking that guy at 6 or in the top 12, he's ranked at 12.
You're starting.
Yeah. So I don't know. For me, guys, here's the problem I think I really have, because there's a lot to like about Monroe Freeling. When did Monroe Freeling separate himself from the pack that was like Caleb Lomu and Blake Miller? Like, that was kind of this.
Even.
And like, that was a group for a while, and all of a sudden he's gone. Yeah. He's so far beyond those guys, and I don't know when that happened, but it wouldn't be me taking that player in the top 12. But I wouldn't be shocked if it happens.
I think that that's a really good way to set it up, because I think that it's like, man, if you, I'm close to you, Connor. We've had the offensive tackle conversation, but it's like, if you're going to pump up Monroe Freeling like that, the name that you guys just said, like, okay, well, I'm pumping up Maxi Onature to the top 12 then, because Maxi Onature, he hadn't even played football that long, right? I mean, like, he's only been playing football 4 or 5 years. So if you want to give like the green argument for him, you can. He struggled. He had a little up and down of a first day at the Senior Bowl, but day 2, day 3, he barely lost reps. Onature did. So I go, okay, I love that. I love I love the power that you have. I love the way that you move. He tested like an elite athlete. I mean, 10-yard split, 81st percentile. 40-yard dash, 96th. Vertical jump, 75th. Broad jump, 95th. Bench press reps, over 50%, 58th percentile there. And he's just under 6'6". He's 321 pounds, and his wingspan is 73rd percentile. Again, like, if you want to like Monroe Freeling, I'm kind of like, you kind of got to bring Yonicher up there at the same time, which I get if you do that. But one versus the other is where you start to lose me, and I start to go, okay, well then why him and not a guy like Yonicher? So
meanwhile, I'm just like, if you really want to take an offensive lineman at 6, just take Ioane and sleep like a baby. Like, what are we doing here?
You can. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the most interesting thing about all these conversations is the why, right? Why do we think we're lower on consensus? And sometimes it can be injury, it can be inflation of value. But Connor, you said it with Monroe Freeling. Like, the reason he's getting the looks is the size. You can't replicate the size. And my guy's the same. Keldrick Falk, edge from Auburn. Current ranking, which is the important part here, 18th, edge 3.
Yeah.
For me, that's too rich. I want to start off by saying, in terms of Keldrick Falk, this is a gifted, high floor player with excellent size. Back to the size thing, 6'6", 285. Always going to get you looks, period. End of story with the NFL. They're going to say, hey, you can't replicate that. And they're right. He also has very good athleticism. It's not like he's just some big Lothar that can't move. That combination is always going to get you looks. I start to blanch at the overall ranking of basically top half of the first round, third edge off the board. It's not about him not being good at football. It's about pushing that projection. Same thing it is with Freeling. Like, well, he could get good at all this stuff. He's not right now. And with Falk, it's about pass rushing. You do not take high floor, strong, run-stopping tackles, or run-stopping defensive ends at 18. You just don't, and expect that to pay off. You are saying he is going to go on a development curve more like an extremely rare one, Daniil Hunter, right? He's got physical gifts. He's big. He can move. He's going to become a pass rusher. It's possible. It's not likely. And that's where I fall off with the impact as a pass rusher. He had a very low number of stops as well. Like, he's good at setting the edge, but he's not necessarily good at being the guy that finishes the play. I like him as a player, but just like Brett with Tyson, I'd be very wary of spending a first round pick on him. And because the chance he pays that off is very, very low. Now, again, if you're sure and your defensive line coach is just chomping at the bit to work with him because he's got all the tools and he thinks he can fix him, okay, but that is putting your job and your defensive structure on the line. Because, again, if you take him at 18 as an edge, you're not sitting him. I don't care who your rotation is. He's playing a lot. He's going to play like 60% of the snaps at least as a rookie. The chances he pays that off quickly, and again, windows are very, very short. We talked about it in the QB discussion. We're talking about 3 years max, right? So if his first year is going to be figuring all those things out, again, as he takes that level of jump in competition, if he didn't do it in college, it's only going to get harder. Everybody's going to face at the NFL levels better. You're just sort of shrinking those possibilities that he does take that jump, and he has absolutely got to thread the needle at 18. And for me, that's just too rich.
See, I'm a Keldrick Falk guy, so I'm just like, I'll take the chance. I believe in my like, if he's there for now that Houston somehow miraculously made a bunch of moves in free agency that I didn't think that they were going to be able to afford to make, but for some reason offensive linemen came in way cheaper in March than I thought they would. So Houston's offensive line's actually looking okay. They still do need to have an edge for the future because they're about to pay Will a bunch of money. Daniil is seemingly getting just 1 year extension at a time, but like they need to have an edge that is cheap in the rotation. Like, they're losing a bunch of defensive linemen this year. Like, they need to add youth to that. To me, he is the Texans type for edge. Power, plays the run. We can develop him. Doesn't have the rare situation where he's not going to have to start as a first round edge immediately.
Sure.
And if he is the third guy in the rotation and you're getting him in the mid 20s, 5 years for super cheap, and he's great in the room, like, be still my heart. I would love that for Houston.
So what you're saying
it's one of
is,
the rare
if you
situations
have,
where it works.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have 2 all-pro pass rushers, you can afford to take this guy. Cool.
Absolutely.
Neat.
But, he could be our new Danico Autry. Or, like what Thule was for the Chargers when they had Bosa and Mack, of just like the third guy, where we're going to put all of them on the field at the same time and fuck you. Like that's the goal here. So, I'm rare on that one.
But Autry and Thule, better pass rushers, right? So like those
and
guys.
And even still, would you take Thule at 18? I was a Thule guy. I love Thule. He was great. If you'd asked me in that year, even with all the love I had for his game and him as a player, oh, you taking him at 18? I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'll wait just a second on that. And I loved him as a player. Again, I like Falk, but it's the 18 that we're with here, not the fact that he's not a player or that he won't develop. I'm not betting against him. I'm just saying you better be damn sure you take him top 20.
So my player here is interesting because he has trended only downwards, I feel like, throughout the college football season and to this point. But I'm going to take Peter Woods because right now he's consensus 24. And I think a lot of people, when they think about Peter Woods, they go, okay, 24 is about right. Connor and I haven't done the interior defensive line episode on Stock Exchange yet, so I haven't revealed all my rankings. I was very disappointed on basically the entire defensive tackle class. Peter Woods is included. I would take this guy much later than 24 because I got a lot more concerns about him at this point. This past year and the usage, I think is a lot of where people are going to, if there's a counter for Peter Woods, they're going to say, just throw this year out the window. I don't think you can do that. You can give it, you can give it context, but throw it out the window. I don't think that you can do. Because when you take into account the fact that Peter Woods is 35th percentile in height, 30th percentile in weight at sub 300 pounds, 5th percentile in arm length, even with big combine, 6th percentile in hand size for defensive tackles, we're looking at a player that I now watch over the last 3 years and I say, okay, you clearly didn't like playing as a two-gapper and a nose tackle this past year. So I can't really project you in that spot. Then when I project you as a three technique, as a one gap penetrating defensive tackle, he doesn't win with moves a lot. He kind of just wins on being Peter Woods. He just wins on the fact that the first step is really good. The hands are really fast. He tries to do speed to power stuff. And once he gets offensive linemen back on their heels, okay, maybe he can shed from there. But there's not a lot of pass rush moves. And I don't think there's particularly a calculated pass rush plan a lot because I see him pop out of his stance immediately and just go lose all the leverage, which tells me, okay, you're not really thinking, all right, I'm going to give this guy, a club rip. And in doing so, I'm going to stay low. I'm going to attack that right shoulder of his, and then I'm going to give him the move. Instead, he's just popping straight up, kind of walking up to the offensive lineman, giving him the shimmy shake that everybody does. And then, he'll throw some sort of a swipe and a move in there, but it's not as calculated and as technical as I feel like it could be. So now we have a player who I can't put in two gap situations as a nose tackle, not good with his length, shows up sub 300 pounds, doesn't work out at the combine despite not having any injuries at the end of the season. We get to the pro day and he does some stuff, but he doesn't run a 40-yard dash. He runs a 10-yard split, but he doesn't run a 40-yard dash. I don't think that you have a really deep bag of pass rush moves. You kind of just win being a better athlete in the interior part of the trenches, which, like EJ said earlier in the show, when you make the jump from college to the NFL, a lot of that stuff doesn't fly. We've tried to watch a lot of guys just out athlete pro players, and it doesn't work. It's so very few times that works. So we've talked about this even with you guys before. I think we talked about it in our group DM that we have, where there are specific defenses where maybe this works. I think best case scenario, this is like Javon Hargrave, right? That to me is best case scenario for Peter Woods. And if you get in a situation where you're an even front and everybody's attacking at all times, yeah, you could get value out of Peter Woods, no question. But I just have a lot more worries about the non-perfect and ideal situations and also snaps that he would play to think about him as like DT1 in this class, going top 20, going around the top 25. I think he's sort of that mid day 2 type of a prospect, likely second round, just because this class isn't as talented. But in terms of where he's at, even still consensus after the adjustment with him, I'm lower on that.
And you just know he's not going to be there at that pick.
Right.
Somebody's going to do it.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Right.
If Jason Light does it, what's going to be your reaction?
Well, he better not do that, because, buddy, we got Peter Woods at home, right? Like we got Clyde Jacansky, we got Peter Woods at home. We're not doing that.
So good.
We're not stopping for McDonald's. That's not happening.
Now, our last little foray through our little snake draft here is players who we love,
yes,
that are ranked below 150 consensus. So I guess you can consider it higher then, but specifically for late round picks.
I'm going to rapid fire my two really quick right here, because I wanted to shout both of them out. The first one's Albert Regis, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M. Not really built like an NFL player when it comes to the interior defensive line, but on the consensus board, he's ranked 209. Buddy, I'd draft him at 120, at 110. And the reason why is because I think this guy's going to be in the NFL for a long, long, long time. The A&M raves about him, who he is as a teammate, constant dirty work player, despite the fact that he's undersized. He's got a 82nd percentile solo run stop percentage, 86.3 run defense grade over the last 2 seasons. His pass rush win percentage is first percentile. He will not rush the passer for you. But when you talk about a rotational, odd or even front nose tackle, or just somebody to do the dirty work, hold up single blocks, hold up double blocks, corkscrew techniques, give you all he's got, be a great teammate, do whatever the coaches ask for him to do. Give me that player as a depth player a lot higher than 209. So Albert Regis is the first one. And then the second one, I'm cheating here because this was one of my big time combine snubs. Cyrus Allen, the wide receiver from Cincinnati. There is still some polish needed with his game. There's no doubt about it. But when you look at him, and when I watched him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl, he was one of the best receivers of all 3 days of practice, because he brought the separation percentage that he had over the last 2 years to life and on the field in Mobile. When you look at just this past season, 94th percentile separation percentage or open target percentage against single coverage situations. And if you rope in the last 2 years, it's still 87th percentile with how often this guy got open. I just think the quick twitch, the acceleration, all of that is there to give me maybe a really good route runner, somebody who could really get open quickly off of press on the line of scrimmage. And so Cyrus Allen's my offensive one, and Albert Regis is my defensive one.
Well, the rest of us picked one, but I did think about going with wide receiver.
Sorry.
That's okay. We love it.
Gluttonous.
We love it. I thought about
the draft, okay?
I like the draft. Okay, that's everybody watching Trevor Among Friends. And I was thinking about Kevin Kollmann. He was right around the 150 mark, the wide receiver from Missouri, but went a little bit deeper. It's Devon Marshall, the cornerback from North Carolina State. He's down by Regis, 206 overall, cornerback 26 on the consensus board right now, which to me is way too low. You're talking about a guy with good size, not a guy like Pons who has size concerns. He's 5'11", 200. Played primarily outside, about 90% outside. His NFL pass rating when targeted, 56.4. Also a good tackler, played against plenty of top competition: Virginia, Wake, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida State. Specifically, the breakout game was against Florida State, playing primarily against a wide receiver that he gave up 7 inches to. He had 6 pass breakups and 2 picks. So smart.
Who is this receiver? He had 7 inches on him.
It's 6'6".
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's a tight end, buddy.
And fast. No, he's pretty fast. So
Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, no. Are we speaking Johnny Wilson's name today? I was not expecting the rando Johnny Wilson reference here.
Dorial Green Beckham.
There it is.
No, DGB, we're going way back. No. So for Marshall, he's a smart corner, learns from his reps quickly, doesn't make mistakes twice. Good functional recovery speed. He's not the fastest, but the thing I love is great click and close on the short breaking stuff, and physical at the top of the stem and at the catch point. Plays through it, but he's really smart about it. Of all of his coverage snaps over 400, he had 1 penalty in 25. Now, the other guy I was thinking about, another corner in this class, very similar statistics all the way through, very similar size, very similar results, had 9 penalties. And I'm like, well, that's where you say, hey, that's why you're down at 200. You're going to have to back it off when you get to the pros because you're going to get even more of those calls. Not the case with Devon Marshall. So plays hard every rep. Love the effort. Love the fact that he can tackle. Love the fact that you can just put him on the outside where he has been very, very comfortable, and he is going to take away one of the receivers for you. To me, that's worth way more than top 200. That's easily a top 150 pick, if not closer to top 100.
For this one, guys, I went back to the tight end well again. Eli Raritan being at 192. Listen, I get that, and I'll check the exact time frame on this. I don't think this is the reason for the ranking on the consensus board. But so Raritan tore his right ACL twice in a 10-month span. It was right before he got to Notre Dame, and then 5 games into his college career, which is, we're pretty far from that right now with Raritan. Like, we have the last 2 years of like really high-end tape. Another guy over 700 snaps in the line of scrimmage the last 2 seasons, adequate as a blocker. You want to get back to yards per route run, 90th percentile at 2.21. This guy eats zone alive. And when you're a legitimate like 6'6", 245, and you have the build as a pass catcher, he's got long strides that just eat up so much turf. This was someone, to me, that you look at the receiving chart as well. They threw him the ball deep, 20 plus yards, 8 times. He caught all 8 of them. All nice. 8 of his deep targets. Yep. So Raritan is somebody that plays on the line of scrimmage, challenges all 3 levels of the field, but legitimately can attack down the field, and has taken on the responsibility of a higher end blocking role at times in Notre Dame's offense. Unless you just can't get over a couple of years ago the ACL tears, there is no world where this guy should be sitting on the board in the 6th or the 7th round. It's egregious to me. I think it's totally egregious. He is a true mismatch kind of player that has done the little things the right way as well.
So my guy is somebody specifically to handle those mismatches. That's Cole Wisniewski. Started at North Dakota State.
Let's go.
And went to Texas Tech.
It's a Trevor guy.
Linebacker, safety hybrid. Like, what is he? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Right. And now I don't have an official measurement on him. I don't know if you guys have seen one. Like, he was listed at 6'4", 220. Other people said he's actually like 6'3", 215. I'm not 100% sure what his actual measurables are in this pro day season.
I got you.
I don't even know if Texas Tech has done it yet.
I got you. You want him?
Yeah. What is it?
Little over 6'3", 214 pounds, 31 1/8 inch arms, and 75 1/8 inch wingspan, and then 9 inch and 3/4, not 9 inches. Oh my gosh, I can't speak today.
9 3/4 hands.
9 3/4 hands. Yes, Lord.
Yeah, that's a linebacker to me. That's a linebacker to me. We can add 6 pounds, get you 221. That's modern linebacker size. And the reason why I like him at linebacker is like, okay, his range and his fluidity and his short area burst as a DB is okay. I don't necessarily want him ever having to be a safety that's 12 yards off the deck in quarters, potentially hitting a vertical from like an actual receiver down the field. Like, I don't know if he's got that much juice where I feel comfortable with that, but he plays the run exceptionally well. I got 17 stops last year. And I think coverage ability as a linebacker is still pretty good by linebacker standards, just not by safety standards when you have to be out there swimming in deep water all by yourself. So I think he's better the closer to the line of scrimmage that he is. And you put him as like a will linebacker, or even if he's just like a dedicated dime backer, and he is handling the Eli Raridans of the world. He is handling a running back out of the backfield and not getting absolutely toasted in space, because for a linebacker, he can move. That is the role that I envision him in. And also with his size and tackling ability, like, we need somebody who can do kickoff coverage. Like, he is going to be a demon on special teams to me. So I like him a lot as somebody who consensus is 194 overall, which is kind of when we're taking special teamers that we think can be role players on offense or defense as it is. He is that kind of guy to me. And if I'm hurting for somebody to take in like round 6, that's going to be my guy.
I'm with you 100%. He made it into our safety episode that we did last week. He was in my top 10 safeties, and I sort of talked about him as more of like a box safety type of a player because of the size and ability to come down and play the run and match up against tight ends and all that kinds of stuff. So big fan of this one. Want to move on to tools that we love during the draft process?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Go for
Let's
it.
do it. So this was sort of a, I can't remember if Brett or EJ, you guys came up with this, but I like the topic because it basically gives us the ability to shout out anything that we like to use when it comes to differentiating prospects and rounding out scouting reports and sort of like making them our own and all that good stuff. So for me, obviously I work at Pro Football Focus. We have these things that we categorize as stable and unstable metrics, which are, advanced data points that are a little bit more than just obviously the common stats. But we also identify them as, okay, we've seen this stat. If you're good at this in college, a good chance that you'll still be pretty good at it in the NFL. And if you're bad at it in college, good chance you'll still be bad at it when you get to the NFL. So it is a more stable projection of a metric. And then unstable is obviously the ones that fluctuate a little bit more depending on situation and who you're with and scheme and all that kinds of stuff. Those are really that in general is the tool, but specifically with running back, I've really enjoyed using missed tackles forced per attempt as a tool to judge how good a running back is beyond their situation, because that's a conversation we have all the time, right? Oh, look at that big run. Well, was it the offensive line or was it the running back? And I think with missed tackles forced per attempt, it doesn't matter whether you're forcing that. And I would categorize yards after contact per attempt as well, sort of in the same category. Doesn't matter if you're getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, 5 yards down the field, 20 yards down the field. You can still rack up these specific stats in these translatable categories that tell me how good of a running back you are individually, independent on whether you have a good or a bad offensive line. Obviously, when you have a good one, it is easier to have the more explosive plays. And when you have a bad one, it kind of tells me like, hey, can you get a bad offensive line out of trouble, which not a lot of running backs have the ability to do. So for a position that is often, look at these touchdowns, look at all those yards, it's just, it's very common stat based. It allows me to go a little bit deeper, a little bit more situational. And I love that tool when it comes to evaluating and ranking running backs in certain classes.
Yeah, tools are great in the draft process. There's so much information, more information available these days than there ever has been. More focus, obviously, we're part of that. One of the tools that I really love is 2-axis graphs in general, and they're excellent for data visualization. But the thing that I really enjoy about them is if you get the right 2 axes for a given position, you were just talking about for running backs, 2 excellent data points that you could put on a chart, you can really start to pull apart these groups, these tiers, these bubbles. And we all have this. We all have sort of shelves of players going from, okay, there's a drop off if we go from here to here. Okay, I've got 6 wide receivers, or I've got 4 edges. How are they different? How are they the same? Tape will tell you some of that, but when you plot all of them top to bottom, we'll throw this graph up on screen. This is one that was put up by Hayden Winks of Underdog. It's 2026 edge prospects, and it's tackles per game runs only, and then pass rush win rate on the x-axis. So you can really see, is this guy a player against the run? Is he a liability against the run? Did he get results as a pass rusher, or is he not that, or is he both? So once you sort of get the methodology of a 2-axis graph and start to understand what the quadrants mean, oh, this is good at both, this is good at neither, this is good at one, only good at the either, you can really apply them to pretty much any position as long as you pick the right 2 metrics and start to pull apart what did these players do. Now, some of that, of course, like you said, Trevor, is determined by situation, some of it by scheme and usage, possibly by injury or anything else. But when you have groups of like players, 2-axis graphs for me, if you pick the right data points or multiples, you can really start to go, oh, you can question your assumptions too. If somebody ends up completely out of a quartile you thought they should be in, okay, was that just, I just saw the 5 tackles where he broke runs, or the 5 runs where he broke a lot of tackles and he didn't do it generally for the rest of the season? It can help you sort of pull out those highlight mentalities as well and say, over the course of a season, with, 200 carries or, with 400 pass rush reps? Did he do it all the time, or have I only seen the 5 he did and those are the ones everybody's hyping it up?
Yeah, I kind of am going down the same road that both of you guys just went down. Trevor brought up, obviously stable and unstable metrics. EJ, you were brought up kind of blending two together on the graph. Going back to PFF's percentiles, right? And the roads those can bring you down. Like bring up a pass rusher, for instance. I might not strictly solely value his pass rush win percentage, but let's see what he did against true pass rush opportunities, right? Let's filter out the screens. Let's filter out a lot of situations that might be kind of clutter in there. Or you look at run stop percentage. You could look at a wide receiver against single coverage, right? You could look at a cornerback, maybe in man coverage situations versus when they're asked to play zone. So those percentiles, and if you want to get even deeper, we've talked about yards per route run and basically just how you stack up against the rest of the competition in specific metrics. And Trevor, the road you went down, like what translates, what matters, what do we have from a history of typically, and not all, but typically a guy being higher end in this area is going to project better to the NFL level. I just think percentiles bring you down the right avenues when watching tape, rather than just diving headfirst into a wide array with no path.
Totally. I agree.
So my tool is very different than all those other ones because it's not necessarily tied to a stat or a metric, like anything like that. It's not even really tied to data visualization. It's tied to how we watch tape, because tape is always going to give context to the numbers, and the numbers are always going to give context to the tape. And at the end of the day, you need both. And when I'm watching tape, it really, really helps me to calibrate my eyes first before I watch college players. And I have to look at what works in the NFL, right? It's a big reason why I've become so fond of bigger edge rushers. That's why I'm a Keldrick Faulk guy, bringing it full circle here. It's because when I watch what works in the NFL, it's size, it's power, it's the ability to compress the pocket. It's nice to have speed and bend, but if that's all you have, I'm sorry, Tristan Wirfs is going to put you on your ass. So when I'm watching corners, and I totally understand this is from like a place of privilege because I happen to have access to this stuff and it is not publicly available. Believe me, I am fighting and trying to find a way to eventually make it all publicly available. That's future Brett's problem. But I watch 2009 Jets all 22 before I watch corners because I'm like, okay, I know what the best of the best looks like ever. And when people throw out these, Darrelle Revis comps for like Jermod McCoy or insert CB1 every single year, I'm like, I'm going to actually watch 2009 Revis. And I'm going to call bullshit when I see it. The majority of the time, no, they're not Revis. But that lets me calibrate my eyes. Where I'm like, okay, you're not 2009 Revis. You might be 2011 Jonathan Joseph, which is still pretty darn good. It's not 2009 Revis, right? I'm going to watch 2007 Adrian Peterson before I do Jeremiah Love, or 2009 Chris Johnson before I do Jeremiah Love. What does real game-breaking speed look like? What does real game-breaking power look like? Yeah. And then I'm going to watch that guy. Yeah. Before you watch Peter Woods, you watch 2016 Aaron Donald, right? I know it's not the same, but that's the point. I need to see what the gap is.
Right.
No, I think this is great. Yeah. I know a lot of NFL like scouts and evaluators followed this practice.
Yeah.
For a fact.
You should.
Yes.
You should, right? Before I watched Sonny Styles, by the way, I watched 2005 Brian Urlacher. So when I came up with the Urlacher comp for Sonny Styles, that's because I just watched the guy do it.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I know he's good, because I'm like, I watched what a Hall of Fame linebacker looked like. You can throw up 2010 Patrick Willis. You can throw up 2006 Ray Lewis. If it's even in the same ballpark, if he's even 80% of that, he's a top 5 pick. And he was. So that helps me a lot as an evaluator, is to go back and watch what worked. Now, as far as what is publicly available, you go on NFL Pro and you get the all 22 for like what currently works in the NFL. So again, it doesn't go back to 2003. But like there's still, like, you want to watch a will linebacker, go watch Levante, who just retired today. He's still doing it at his age. Go watch Levante David, compare it, see if it's even remotely close. If the answer is yes, draft him. If it's not, see on day 3. Like you have to calibrate by watching what works before you watch college kids, because it's so easy to watch somebody dominate Old Dominion and say, oh my God, he's going to be good. Does it work against Quentin Nelson?
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I love that you brought up, no offense to ODU, but when you're looking at somebody's stats, pull up game by game, right? Where did they get the production? We all look at the overall production for a season. Cool, this guy had, 60 pressures. Okay, where did he get them, right? And when he went against top, when he went against SEC schools with top offensive lines, did it go down? Did it remain the same? Did it go down a little, or did it just drop off? Is there an absolute chasm there? That will tell you something about a player. Yes, it's raw stats. I understand that. It's not the only thing, but before you get into somebody's tape and you're like, hey man, this is a 50 pressure guy, that's awesome. Oh, yeah. Central Ag and Tech accounted for 15 of them in one game. All right. Well, all right.
I've gotten away from this over the last couple of years, but in my massive Google sheet where I put a lot of my notes and everything for players in different positions and all that, not only would I do that for like overall players, Brett, but I got to the point where I sort of had anywhere from 3 to 5 like main traits for a player at a certain position. And I had different NFL players where it was like, okay, this is the gold standard of a bull rush. This is the gold standard of a two-gapping defensive tackle. This is the gold standard of a defensive tackle who's a pass rusher. And like you watch those 3 guys and you go, okay, well now it's not just about like, is he Aaron Donald? Like Caden McDonald. There's no sense in watching Aaron Donald for Caden McDonald. You're like, okay, is this guy Jordan Davis, Haloti Nada, like whoever it is, like is he that? And you're kind of watching a different player in that regard, right? Like Peter Woods, like, oh, okay, like a three tech, like attacking defensive tackle. Okay, well, watch Warren Sapp before you watch him. Like, what's the difference between those kinds of players? So I think it's a really great shout out. And if people have the resources to be able to do it, I think that they absolutely should.
By the way, speaking of Warren, so I got that 2003 Bucks tape. Holy shit, dude. Talk about power for a 3 technique. Yeah, My God.
Alien defense, brother. Aliens. I mean, just
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like Simeon Rice somehow being the underappreciated player on that defense is just an embarrassment of riches of how good that team was.
We do have a viewer question to wrap up the show. This comes from, I think, my favorite username I've ever seen. At man75739, he says, I'd love to see you guys talk about what makes the conditions for a trade down/up. It's very easy to see as a casual fan that, I probably should have resized this so it didn't get cut off. Very easy to see as a casual fan that value for value trade downs usually are worth it, but they still don't happen all that much. So I'll pose the question to the crowd. Connor, I'll start with you. What makes the conditions ripe for a team to trade up? I mean, everybody loves trading down, but trading up, what's that trigger point for you?
Knowing truly 2 things. One, is there one piece of your roster that has a vacancy that aligns with a star talent of the draft that could put you over the top? And the second being, you've either accumulated enough assets that you have an excess that it's not going to hurt you making that move, or you have a roster that doesn't have a lot of space, man. Like, it's pretty rare in the NFL, but you might be looking at your roster and be like, we really like 49 of these guys, and we're going to go into camp. We don't want 8 or 9 rookies coming into camp that we feel like we need to keep. So it's a numbers game just as much as it's a falling in love with the talent kind of game. And then if you're on the other side of it, you just got to be sure, right? Like, you look at the Browns-Jags trade from last year, which is the recent easy one to go to. If Travis Hunter had 1,200 receiving yards and grabbed 5 interceptions as a rookie, people might be looking around and they're like, man, the Browns passed on this guy? Like, this is one of the most rare players we've ever seen. But on the flip side of it, Cleveland right now is sitting really pretty to kind of go through their retooling process as well. So that's a tricky part of it from a perception angle that you need to walk the fine line.
The answer to the question is like roster evaluation. Just like Connor said, like, what's the conditions for a trade up and a trade down? Like, it's 100% roster evaluation, because we can get more into the draft like conversation of it, like, hey, do you, because like Sonny Styles is the perfect example, right? I've talked about this from a Bucks perspective, obviously. I've talked about this from a Cowboys perspective as well. People will be like, hey, should the Bucks trade up from 15-3 to go draft Sonny Styles? And it's like, yeah, I mean, Styles would be absolutely sick on this team, but you have to think you're not just then spending the number 3 overall pick on Sonny Styles. You're also spending whatever you are trading to go up to get to number 3. There are independent conversations of if an off-ball linebacker is worth 3. Mm-hmm. Then you throw in the fact, is an off-ball linebacker worth 3, a first rounder next year, a third rounder this year? And like, that's the draft part of the game is, I think, a different conversation, but I think the conditions to the heart of the question that's being asked, Connor's totally right. Like, it's roster evaluation. It's just where you are in your winning window and how much you like your roster currently.
And now that Travis Hunter is a full-time corner, is a corner worth that? Let alone, okay, is a corner worth the top 5 pick? Is a corner worth the top 5 pick plus?
Connor and I talked about this last year. I love Travis Hunter. Unbelievable. I get the trade. You can't trade him and play him on one side of the ball. You can't trade up for him and have him play one side of the ball. The whole reason why you're trading for him is for him to bring you value rare to the game. And I think that if you're limiting yourself from not getting the value there, then the trade that they made probably is not going to be worth it, even if he's a great corner.
And speaking of calibrating your eyes, by the way, if you watch 2014 Patrick Peterson, if you're watching 2009 Revis, if you're watching 2006 Champ Bailey, if you're watching 2009 Namdi, and then you throw on Colorado Travis Hunter as a corner, I'm sorry, not the same. Like, you're hoping that he can be 2006 Champ when the Broncos played cover 2 at an absolutely outrageous rate just so they could set up situations where he could attack the ball. You know how many teams are playing cover 2 as much as the 2006 Broncos? Basically none of them.
Right.
So it's like, are we taking a corner where his best skill set is playing the flat aggressively as a zone corner? Are we taking that number, top 3 while also giving up picks? That's a tough trade to stomach, man.
Yeah, the answer is not by itself, right? You have to add in the receiver production, and it's why we were also surprised when that move got made. We're like, who are they go? Oh, they're doing this for Travis. Okay. He better be everything on both sides of the ball that they're thinking about. But to me, this is where I know everybody loves to hash on mock drafts because there's a billion of them this time of year, but this is where mock draft simulators really help me understand a class and how it's going to fall. And that's really important because when you're talking about a trade scenario, it's within a year. Yeah, you have to think about the opportunity cost, Trevor, absolutely, as you're kicking that can down the road. Are we giving up pick next year and everything else? But in this class, if I'm looking to trade up, the thing for me is, have we reached a shelf? Because the draft this is the last stop on the train. Right? You've already gone through free agency. For the most part, trades are completed. There's no more Hail Marys. Whatever you do in the draft is going to fill those holes to a level you need, or you're just going to be picking up at this point, a 4th wave free agency player to like literally fill a hole. So when you're sitting there with those needs, you've tried to eliminate all those. We talked about team building in the process and how to do that. You've still got one, and everybody knows it. And you have players you feel are a fit for your system who can come in and take those reps, whatever they are. I don't care whether it's DPR. I don't care whether it's starting middle linebacker. I don't care whether it's starting number 2 wide receiver. And you say, if I don't get this player, I see a significant drop in my potential outcomes based on how I've evaluated them for my system, for my team, and they get there. There's that little run. And as a GM, this is when you start to panic, right? If it's offensive tackle and you need a starting offensive tackle, we're not talking about project. We're not talking about swing tackle. We're talking about, I need a week 1 starter at right tackle. And there are, whatever it is in this draft, 3 guys, 4 guys that I want. Bam, 2 of them are off in the first 6. Okay, I start making calls. 3rd one goes, pick 9. All right, my pick's not for another 4 picks. How sure do we feel about that guy that we have a round 2 grade on? Or, we're going to be rolling him out against insert vicious pass rusher from your division year. And if you feel like that drop is too significant, that's the point where you're like, do not let more picks go by. Call 10, call 11. Do not let them off the hook. What's it going to cost us? And the first one that, hey, everybody's going to say, look, if my guy's there, I'm not doing it. But what are you going to offer me is, hey, I need this. I have to come up. And that's the leverage where you really, for in a trade up scenario, we're going to lose out. And then it's just, we're going to the third round or the fourth round. Our expectations have dropped significantly. We're not expecting that guy to come in and take starting reps for us.
And that is how Monroe Freeling goes top 12. Is that desperation?
Top 6.
Falling in love is dangerous.
Falling in love is dangerous.
Top 3 by the time we get to the third week of
He's
April.
going second overall. The Jets are going to rotate their tackles.
Yeah. Hey, you can never have too many good tackles, you know?
It's not a hot air balloon anymore, guys. It's a weather balloon. It's outside the stratosphere.
I think Dan actually had him as QB too.
Have you seen him throw?
Man.
I mean, at the pro day against Air, I'll give you that, but come on.
This was episode 3 of the Bluechip Committee. The first episode is on the NFL Stock Exchange channel. The second episode is on the Bootleg channel. And that's where the final episode will be. Episode 4. The final episode will be the Friday before NFL Draft Week. That is April 17th. And guys, that one will be simply the most intriguing storylines going into the 2026 NFL Draft.
I have no doubt that we will be able to fill the entire show with just all of the galaxy brain rumors that at that point will be swirling everywhere. So I'm excited for that one, man.
Yeah, I would like to put out a call for hot takes, I guess you could say, in the comments. If you have a particular thing you want to plant your flag on as the audience of like, this player is going to go in this range, or this is the narrative that we're all going to be talking about, I'd love for you guys, wow, sounded out, Brett, to plant your flag in the comments below. We'll read off a few of those in our final episode. I want to thank all of our sponsors who made this episode possible in the first place. Factor, Mando, Fast Growing Trees, Blue Wire, who's handled the distribution for this little joint venture here. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate you guys for watching and listening. We're 2 hours into this show at this point. If you're still here, we appreciate you deeply. I'd say so far this has been a roaring success, and people have responded very positively to it. So thank you, everybody. We will see you April 17th over on the Bootleg channel for our last episode.